And so my main job is to thank the officers, the chairman and secretary, treasurer, vice chairman, and the webmaster, because I've experienced our friend close and Martin when I played the organ at All Saints Tooting, and I'd like to say how wonderful I think that effort is. Don't you agree, putting the things on the internet? And so I'd like to, you make a very good team, and I'm very grateful on behalf of everybody else, so thank you for that. I'd just like to say two personal things. I don't want to embarrass Ray by talking about you. I don't want to have to widen the doors for you to get your head through when you go out of the church. But the point is that when I first moved to London from Worcester 40 years ago, Ray was the secretary of the Organist Association, I was the chairman. We were both rather a lot younger in those days, weren't we? But we had a good team in those days, and that was in the days before electronic technology. And I remember sitting in my house on Bankside with Ray and Don Eggleton, the treasurer, and I think John Webber on one or two occasions, writing envelopes, addressing them, and we were having a big thing. And the computer's taken all that tedious work away, but I think sometimes when we were sitting around the table, we used to say to one another, why not send a letter to so-and-so? Or, good heavens, we've forgotten him. Or she'd be very good at something or other. And what I'm trying to say is I think electronic technology is brilliant. And I find that if I'm helping to appoint organists in churches in the Diocese of Southwark, you know, people do respond to things on the internet, and one cannot avoid using it, and one should not avoid, because it is a great tool. But one of my theme songs, which people get pretty tired of, is that you've got to add personal skills to the electronic skills. And I think when it comes to recruiting members, you've actually got to go up to somebody and say, will you become a member? And shove the application form in front of them and not leave until they've joined. And that's the only sort of thing to do. You've got to have the personal touch and getting onto people in that sort of way. And so we used to do it differently in the old days. Nowadays it's nice to see that people just do a newsletter, press a button, and it goes. As we were sticking stamps and writing envelopes and all that. But I still think that there was a sacramental point about that, the fact that we actually had to write everybody's name. We reminded us who were members. So that's one thing. And the other personal thing I'd like to say is you mentioned Cathy Shorwood. And I remember her very affectionately, because although she was a member of the Organist Association, she was a very powerful member of the Royal School of Church Music Diocesan Committee. And she was in her early 30s in those days, and her strength and stamina was something quite formidable. And when we were having a festival in the cathedral, we might have to move 300 chairs. And she used to say, don't worry, you leave it to me. I'll be there at 1:30 with 8 young men. And she used to turn up, and not only did she make the young men move 300 chairs, but she moved quite a lot of them herself. She was a very remarkable woman, and I'm glad that you spoke about her at some length. And I just like to put that into the meeting, that there have been and are some very remarkable people connected with this association. And I think that technology needs to be wedded to humanity and eye-to-eye contact and ringing people up. You've got to have a combination. If you have a combination of electronic technology plus the personal factor, you're on a very powerful wicket, in my view. And really, I think that's all I want to say, except that last Monday, two members of this association and I attended the organ recital at the Royal Festival Hall by Isabel Demers, a brilliant Canadian young organist. And she was amazing in playing a whole program of music of Reagan from memory, faultlessly. And of course, you all know that Reagan has more black on the page than white. Lots and lots and lots of notes. And she was very brilliant. And going to my technological theme, she probably couldn't have played that music as brilliantly if she hadn't had the sequencers and the steppers, because she used that organ in a way I think I've never heard it played before. It was a wonderful. But I was terribly glad to see that she did do crescendos, putting in the stops right. And did you notice that? No. And I thought, yeah, you can't do that on the steppers quite so easily. You've got to just sort of put the brain into the equation and sort of judge when you're going to push the stop in. So I was rather amused at that. I thought it was rather good.